So I was lucky to work on shows up there. I could name a bunch of shows, but you guys know what they are, so it's easier for me to just say a bunch of shows. I'm really excited. I've been working for a new company the last year, or actually the last 3 years, called Sentai Filmworks. Yeah, they're like, be ready. They're about to take over everything. They started from the ashes of what used to be ADV Films. In fact, part of our studio is actually part of the building. I know it's funny to say part of the building. We're in part of the area where we used to film or record ADV stuff. And I've been lucky enough to do some really fantastic shows for them recently. I did Hakuoke. I played a perverted talking dog in a samurai war. And Epithala Memories and Epithala Melodies. Most recently, a Japanese Academy Award-winning film called Colorful, which I love. And I play Makoto in Colorful. It's a fantastic show if you get a chance. It's the most uplifting show ever for a show that starts with my character killing himself. It's a very dark show, but it turns around and has a real super cool message at the end. Most importantly, my newest show that I think it's funny. Last summer, Monica Rial and I were in Wonderland together, and then this year we would be in the bloody chiller of the summer. We're working on, or we just finished a show called Another, which we're going to show here this weekend. And if you get a chance, it is brutal. We just showed it on a big screen in Texas, and during the first death, it was so awesome to hear the whole audience go, "Oh!" Like it made just this guttural sound. So yeah, so I'm really excited that I'm working with the people I am and the studios I am, so yeah. And I also am a musician. I DJ. I've been DJing for 28 years. So if you want to ask me about that, if you want to ask me what kind of crazy stuff I've got planned for tomorrow night, I'll also be playing tonight, but I don't know if I'm allowed to advertise what I'm doing tonight. I'm playing at a room party. So if you are on the second floor and hear really naughty music and it smells like there's a lot of funky booty shaking going on, that's probably where I am. I also staff a lot of conventions. I staff 4 conventions, so and it's funny because of the shows that I staff, I also am a guest, and I also DJ, and I also do all these other things. So 4 times a year, I book bands and arrange for the rave or the not rave. We're not allowed to call it a rave in some cities, and I do the program design, stuff like that. So just an overall nerd in general. When I'm not home, I'm shooting the faces off of zombies all night long. It never gets old. And that's still, all these years, it's still not old yet. So yeah, that's me. Oh, I have a prairie dog for a pet. Her name is Pico. I have 2 other dogs, but my prairie dog is Daddy's girl. She gets all the cashews. So yeah, so that's the hard part. Now this is the easy part. I get to turn the whole rest of the panel over to you guys. You can ask me whatever you want. If it's too weird, I'll lie, though. Yeah. My brother, yes, where is Chris this year? My brother is now a full-time director for Sentai Filmworks, which is awesome because he, as an actor, you never know where your next paycheck is coming from. My brother actually gets paid on a regular Monday through Friday basis. But as a result, and remember that whole thing I said recently about Sentai Filmworks is about to run the show? We are turning into the Martha Stewart sweatshop of anime. We are cranking out shows faster than you can say the names of them. And I'll give you a perfect example. When I started working in anime, the typical line count for a voice actor was about... As you can tell, I'm a big Bioshock fan. As long as we don't hear the Songbird song, if we hear the Songbird song, we all have to run. But anyway, that's a Bioshock when I started, the average line count for an actor was about 30 lines and 20 reactions for an hour. That was an hour's worth of work. And now at Sentai Filmworks, we're about 120 lines an hour. So we are working at the speed of light. And in doing so, our directors are almost never allowed to be sick or absent or anything. So my brother is literally, he's recording right now, and he will be recording tomorrow at this time. But the cool thing is, and I don't know if I can announce this yet, but he is the reason a voice actress that had had said she would never voice act again and has suddenly returned to the playing field. So I can't say who she is just yet because I don't think she's had her debut back. But so my brother is, I think, recording her this weekend. So, but yeah, Chris told me to tell everybody hi, and that he's very sorry he can't be here, but that's where he is. He's going, no, do that again. No, do that again. Say that the same way, only better. So, that's where my brother is doing this weekend. Yes, I will tell him you heart him. Hi. No, just, I would say a vacuum, but it's too late for that. So, no, we're good, we're good. Does anybody else need anything? That's easy. Yeah, in the back, yeah.
So, we talked a lot about set time. Super excited because I saw they licensed one of my favorite shows from last year, Kids on Slope.
Yes.
What can you tell us about the dumb status of that?
Well, it's already out, one, and I know it's taken a lot of flack. There are a lot of people that have had a hard time with. There's some technical issues with the disc. One of the things that we're having to do is we're having to work faster because we have kind of a different relationship with the Japanese companies. And one of the things that we've told people is that we can produce fast. Well, when you produce fast, there's inherent risks in doing that. There's QC errors that happen all the time, which, you know, is the part that worries me as an actor. I think when I work faster, I'm more prone to make mistakes. But as a nerdy fanboy and as the guy that gets to watch it before you do, I watch everything I'm in, and so far I've only seen 2 that I was like, ooh, no. That said, for as much abuse as hiccups and burping, jeez, more hiccups. For that being said, and I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, so don't put this on YouTube. We recorded all of Kids on the Slope in a week, like 1 week. Oh, I can't suck on that and talk at the same time, but I'll take them for later. Yes, I will. Can you hear me like? Awesome. So that whole show was done in a week. The whole entire show was done in a week. In fact, I had to take a lesser role because I was leaving for a convention and couldn't record over the weekend. And that being said, I think the thing I like the most about the titles we're getting at Sentai Filmworks is they are not, how do I say this without sounding like I'm throwing eggs at someone else? They're not the, this is the new hot thing title. They're really shows that have hardcore storylines. They're maybe they're not made to make a lot of money. They're made to like tell a really cool story. And to me, that's what anime's always been about anyway. You know, yeah, sure, once in a while a freak accident like Dragon Ball Z happens and something becomes a really big success. But I don't think you can, I think if you shoot for that, if like all you ever want is the next Oran or the next Naruto, I think that gets pretty old pretty fast. So I'm pretty excited we do shows like Kids on the Slope and another, and like, you know, darker and more serious titles. But yeah, it's good, and I love the music. The music from that show is just fantastic. And it's Shiro Watanabe, so what is there to dislike about that? So he's a really cool guy. I've gotten to do a few conventions with him. He's a really, really super nice guy. So yeah, let's have another, yeah.
What was it like working on Ghost Stories?
Oh man, what was it like working on Ghost Stories? It's probably the most fun I've ever had in this job, ever. For those of y'all that don't know what Ghost Stories is, there was this show once upon a time called Ghost Stories in High School, or Ghost in High School, and it really sucked a lot. In fact, it was so bad that it was originally made for a teenage audience, and it got shoved into a children's time slot. And so it really didn't do well in the time slot it was given because it was on at the wrong time in Japan too. So they tried to sell it to anyone who would want it in the States. Nobody wanted it. And they finally eventually said, look, you can do whatever you want with this show. And we did. And so we had some rules. We couldn't change the names of the ghosts because they're all based on Chinese and Japanese ghost legends. We couldn't change the names of the characters, although we did get to change mine because my character's name in the original was Rio, and it was obviously meant to be Leo. But other than the basic storyline and the ghosts, we could say whatever we wanted. while still making fun of George Bush, you name it. The best is, I originally made the first joke about Kristen Slater, and I never, ever thought the joke would last the rest of the whole show. I think we were in like episode 6, and we're watching this parking lot being demolished, and it reminds me of the story that Kristen Slater tells in Heathers about his, father accidentally killing his mother. And the line that was there was something that was kind of funny, and I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, Steven, let me try something. And so they roll it back again, and I go, man, this reminds me of that scene in Heathers. Remember when Kristen Slater had a career? And that never died. We continue to make fun of Kristen Slater for the rest of the show. And we have jokes that, like, if you ever find me, like, tied up in an alley somewhere, it was Kristen Slater. But we really poke fun at everybody. The funny thing is, I played a little Jewish kid in the show, and we were talking about redubbing the show every 5 years, because it would still be funny every 5 years, because, seriously, when we did the show, we didn't have Sarah Palin, Lady Gaga, and all her troubles. Well, dude, I played a Jewish kid. I totally wanted Mel Gibson's ass. So, it was going to be funny, but unfortunately, the show was so successful that the Japanese pulled the rights to it, and now they control the rights to the show. So it's kind of funny for a show that they couldn't sell at one point. It's now like this big hot commodity, and it's really all to do with our bad taste. And our the year that Monica and I previewed it at Otakon, they booed us off the stage, which was so funny. So many actors would just cry if they got booed. Monica and I thought it was so funny that we were getting booed. She's like, oh my God, you're booing us? I was like, boo, boo. Well, that year, we beat Alchemist for Dub of the Year in Anime Insider. So yeah, take that, little short guy. So yeah.
I just want to throw that out. If you YouTube Ghost Stories, you can see all their funny lines on it.
Oh yeah.
It's hilarious.
They've done like the best of, and yeah, it's funny. That's one of the most illegally rebroadcast things on YouTube right now, like of anime. Like, we've had several versions of it taken down, and finally the studio's just like, whatever, people love this show. So it's, now there's like all kinds of YouTube, wank on it. It's cool. So there's so many funny bits in it. So yeah.
Is there any talks about putting a second season on the Dead Man Wonderland?
Well, here's the thing. He asked, was there any talks of a second season of Dead Man Wonderland? Here's the deal. Jason DeMarco, who started, who's the president of Toonami, is pretty open on Twitter about the numbers. And according to the numbers for Toonami, like 7.25 million people saw that show. So it's a lot of people. Now, that's not saying it was all Dead Man Wonderland. I mean, there was just a lot of people tuning in for anime too. But when a show does well in America, they seem to sit up and take notice in Japan. In fact, a lot of Nabishin's shows that were never popular originally got popular in the States and then suddenly became popular a second time in Japan. So that said, and that many people being interested in Dead Man Wonderland, the creator, the mangaka, has started working on the story again. She's working on the manga now. She's working on finishing the manga. I think the studios would be stupid not to animate it, especially with so many unanswered questions at the end of the show. So I think it'll probably happen, but I mean, that could be a pretty far way down the road. But that's the cool thing. I mean, there's always room for more. So God knows they keep making more Dragon Ball Z's. Yeah, so hopefully there will be more Dead Man Wonderland. I hope so. I love the little girl that Tia Ballard plays with the giant, whether it's a sword or a bat, that giant extending thing. But there's not nearly enough of that little girl. So, Sayuki Gaiden, what about it?
You just finished that recently?
Actually finished that about a year ago. It's out now though, and it's kind of cool because we had the original cast of Sayuki were recast, unfortunately, against our will, by Genion, and so there was a lot of butthurt and a lot of angry words said over the new Reload and Reload Gunlock, but there's no more Genion anymore. So there's still more Sayuki. In fact, there's a big push to get as much of Minakura's work out as possible now because she's, whether you know it or not, she's under extreme physical duress right now. She's suffering from a debilitating illness and she will not be getting better. She'll only be getting worse. And so there's a big push to get all of her work out quickly and have the story told as best it can. That said, we're the only ones left. So I was thrilled to go back and do Gaiden because Gaiden is what takes place before the first season of Sayuki. You always know in Sayuki that these guys know each other from a previous life, but you don't really understand that or you don't know what happened. That said, when I started working on this, I knew that I was the only one that wouldn't die in this show, so I knew it was not going to be happy at all. And it's cool because it's the original four of us. We're the only four, well, I take it back. Shelley Black is back, the Merciful Goddess is back, a few characters are back, but we're really a few of the only characters from the original left. And that said, all of us are in it. It's really fantastic. Here's a pro tip. If you don't want to spend $50 on a DVD, you can buy the entire OVA series for $5.65 on iTunes. So if you'd like to see it and don't want to go broke, that's a great way to see it. But be sure to have a handkerchief. It's not happy at all. It's very sad. You will cry a few times. I cried 3 times. I'd start the last cry earlier and earlier and earlier every time I watch it now because I know it's coming. But it's good. It's a really cool show. And it was good for us to be able to go back and put that show to bed the right way and not have somebody else do it for us. So, yeah. With the most awesome shirt. You saw it on, yeah. My director's response was exactly, hang on. Messages. It says, "Holy sweet baby Jesus!" Exclamation point. He's dressed as my character's specific scene from Heaven's Lost Property, in the My Tingly Nips shirt. And it actually looks pretty amazing. It's got the stars and everything. So I had to take a picture of it and send it to Chris Bevins. So it's called Heaven's Lost Property, but we call it Bevins Lost Panties because that's Bevins' show. So, yeah.
So what was your favorite scene from that show, and is there anything more going to happen in that show?
I think there's always room for more of Heaven's Lost Property, especially by the way they ended the film, the date film, which is super sad. I think there's room for more, and definitely if there's more, I'm interested in doing it. My favorite bit was the game show where I ended up in the poop. Just because it's so gross. And the other thing was the whole mask to pants thing. I still have the panties in my backpack from the mask to pants episode. Anytime we do things where our voice is obstructed, we generally don't fake that. If I'm a mummy, they will wrap a shirt around my face or something. And so for this, they're like, man, it'd be really funny if we can find a pair of panties to put over your face. Well, Shuffle came with a pair of panties in the box set. So like, hey, in the box set of Shuffle. So I wore these purple panties that said God on the crotch of them. Afterwards, over my face. So I looked like Spider-Man. And the funniest thing about that was the day we did that, I took a picture of me in the booth wearing my underwear on my face and put it on my Facebook. And it said, just another day at the office. Because it's funny to me. It's funny that my job requires me to put underwear on my face and a dirty song or whatever. Well, the funny thing is I forget all these old white biddies I used to work with at the law firm. And so people are like, I found your post today horribly offensive. And so I fixed it, I deleted them. And then the next day I went back and posted Greg Ayres. It's when you still had your name at the beginning of the post. It said Greg Ayres realizes his job is NSFW, which is funny. My job is not safe for work. So, but that was the funniest. Just walking around the office with panties on my head.
We get the laugh on Facebook.
She wouldn't let you. I keep those panties in my backpack, and they fell out at an airport once. The TSA is violating all my rights, and so I taking everything out. This purple pair of panties falls out. This is God. And I was like, there's talking to me, he was like, man, I can totally explain this, and I was like, oh shit, and he just put him in. I just let be awkward. That was really funny. So, let those guys deal with it. Let them write the story in their head. So, yeah, who's got another question? Yeah. Her, and then you. Yes. You. Yes.
What was your most probably embarrassing experience voice acting?
Let's see. Embarrassing experience.
Got
Well, I tore the whole ass out of my pants when I was working on Sayuki. It wasn't embarrassing. I didn't realize I had done it until I got to the bathroom. But when we do fight scenes, we jump around a lot. And for some reason, I balled up my fist. My friends make fun of me. I love haunted houses, but I have to go through them with my hands in fists in my pockets because I've been known to knock people in haunted houses out. Instant reaction. So now if my hands are balled up in my pants, by the time I fight them out of my pockets, I'm already like laughing, like ha ha ha, it's not, I don't have time to punch. Well, so I don't know why, but I was doing the haunted house thing. I had my hands balled up and they were shoved way down in my pockets and I was jumping and something about it tore like this split from my belt line all the way to the ball line, straight down the back. And I didn't hear it, and I guess you didn't hear it in the take, because that's the take that's actually on the show. So there's no extra noise. But I went to the restroom. I walked all the way through the office that day, and went to the restroom. And when I undid my belt, it felt like my pants came apart. And then I was like, "What's wrong?" And I reached back, and my pants were like a skirt. So I came back with my sweater tied around my waist. And I didn't say anything about it at the time. I was just like, what's going on? But then I was like an hour late to work afterwards because I had to go all the way back home and change clothes. Because at the time I was working in a law firm, so can't go in looking like that. So, but that's one of my most embarrassing voice acting things. Now there's a better story that involves back end and recording. There's a female actress that we work with that farted during a take. And the best thing is she knew it, and she was like, oh, can I do that again? And the director was like, wait, hang on a second, it's fine, hang on. And they rewound it, and they played it, they rewound it, and they played it, they rewound it. And the director's like, there's some noise in the tape. And so then the engineer figured it out, and the engineer was like, and he's looking at her, she's mortified. He's like, and at the time that the director, and thank God they decided to move on, because the director is kind of like, oh, and he would make a joke about it. She's like, can I just do that again? And the engineer told us later, he's like, I've never felt more embarrassed for someone else in my life. Because whenever he played it back and forth, he'd hear a little sound, and he's like, oh, that's not noise, is it? So luckily I have farted during fight scenes, but luckily my mouth is louder than my mouth. So you can't ever hear it. But the pants are the worst. Who's kind of, yeah. Oh wait, no, you were next. I'm sorry, you were next. I lied. Then you.
Okay, how did you get a prairie dog, and what is that?
Oh my God, she's so cute. I'm a big animal lover, big, huge animal fan. I love exotics. I've had hedgehogs and ferrets and all kinds of little weird animals. And I was in an exotic store, and they had these prairie dogs, and evidently, I know now, if you can't sell them when they're babies, most people don't want adult prairie dogs, because they bond with their owners, and that's when all the really cute stuff happens with their little baby. Well, there were these 3 or 4 grown prairie dogs, and it said, free prairie dog with purchase of cage. And this one little prairie dog kept looking at me, and I had never seen prairie dogs. For those of you that watch too much internet, the dramatic gopher is not a gopher at all. She is a prairie dog. But they're very adorable, and this one was sitting up, because they like to sit up like meerkats. She was just sitting up looking at me, and she kept doing this. And so, I decided she was talking to me, and so I had to buy a $100 cage, and I had a prairie dog. And they're very, very funny, but they have very short life So I try to make sure that they're the most spoiled, rotten prairie dog by the time they die and live as full a life as possible. My current prairie dog, I've had 4. My current prairie dog is named Pico because she was the runt of the litter, and the other 2 prairie dogs were bullying her. I was originally going to get 2, and my mom wanted 1, and my mom ended up taking the bully girls because they were bigger and they could take care of themselves, and mine was the little one, and because they weren't letting her eat, her teeth were growing in weird, so I had to it's gross, I had to clip her teeth and all this stuff. And it's funny because they're still bullies and they eat all the food, and now my mother's prairie dogs are as fat as panda bears. And they're the slowest moving prairie dogs. And my little girl is fit. She has a cage that she does flips in. So, but my current prairie dog is named Pico. I've had Suki was my first prairie dog, and then I think Potsy was next. He was the little fat acrobat. And then I had Tiki, who actually had her own little tiki hut that she would eat the roof off of regularly. And now Pico. So, but yeah, I get them, you can only get them, I'm registered as a caregiver, so if somebody ever finds one in the wild and they don't want to, or if somebody tries to release and domesticate one in the wild, there's a whole group of prairie dog, action rescue people that will fly in and make sure there's a good home. And so I'm on that list, so at any time I might be asked to take another prairie dog. But otherwise, you get them in April. That's when breeding season, that's when the babies happen, is in April. And then you get one and you just have fun with it for about 3 or 4 years. And when that one dies, you wait a while because you can't just replace your pet. And then you get another one a year or 2 later. And they're always funny and they make the most ridiculous sounds and love cashews. They love anything, but you can't let them, they'll eat Reese's Pieces if you let them, but they don't eat Reese's Pieces. They get fat enough already. So, yeah. So you are next. Yeah. Oh, you. Okay, you. You poor girl. No, I'm kidding.
What would you do if you're locked in a room with Maggie Springfield and Rebecca Black?
Oh, that's actually funny. Those 2 really kind of deserve each other, don't they? Well, see, here's the thing. It wouldn't be a problem because Neggy could take care of that thing, that voice of hers. He could just sew that mouth of Rebecca Black shut and save the world. So I think that's the best 2 people to have in a room. What I would do is I would beg Neggy Springfield to take the vocal cords away from Rebecca Black, and we would all be safe. My favorite is I work for one of the cons I work for. We have a Friday badge that is, we sell lots of one-day-only badges. Well, the badge marked 01 for Friday, the badge name is always Rebecca Black, and now people fight over the Friday Rebecca Black badge. So I think that's pretty funny. But, yeah.
You mentioned you used to work in a law firm.
Yeah.
What did you do there? I'm kind of curious.
I was an IT guy, and I did questionable things on the computer. I'm a tracker, if you know what that word means. I find people that don't want to be found on the internet. When someone tells me that they're anonymous, I kind of giggle, because there's no such thing as being anonymous on the internet. And most people that play on the internet are very, very sloppy about their leaving a trail for themselves. So I did that. I was also a technologies instructor, and I did back-end web development. And, I did web development for litigation support tools like live note transcription software that would allow you to search transcription of, this is going to get real nerdy, hang on, that would allow you to search transcription of a deposition. So if somebody was lying and they were asked very different questions, but the same answer came out 2 different ways, you could actually track that, and that could affect the line of questioning you would have in that. But one of the things that they did most was find people, so that's funny. And it's kind of ironic and not so ironic that I have pocketfuls of friends that do very questionable things on the internet. But yeah, I was never a lawyer. That's a myth. People think they're like, oh, Ray Ayres used to be a lawyer. No. Oh no! See, the cool thing is, if you're in law school now, avoid large law firms with all your heart and soul. Yeah, there's lots of, and while I worked there, and while I call it the evil law firm, I worked with some fantastic people. A lady I worked with, I shouldn't say her name because she'll get mad because she'll be on YouTube. She spent almost a year doing pro bono work on this fireplace lighters They used to not have safeties on him, and the little boy burned like 90% of his body and was like scarred for life. She spent years of her life working that case, and she's the reason now all those have lawyers. I worked with some really cool intellectual property lawyers that kind of shaped my idea of intellectual property and whatnot. But I also worked with horrible, evil people that help giant oil and gas companies manipulate the market and things like that. So small firms, like small law firms, like great. Big law firms, so bad. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. It's why I enjoy having colored hair and not looking like a banker now, because I had to look like a Republican for 6.5 years when I worked at the law firm. If no one believes me, once in a blue moon, I post weird pictures of that on my Facebook, and every once in a while there's this picture of me at a desk, like looking at a computer, and it was some picture that was snapped at me when I was doing some SQL stuff. So, but yeah, I had a shaved head most of the time because I couldn't stand having like Clark Kent hair, so I just shaved it. That was the easier way to do it. But yep, who's got another question? Yes. Backwards. I fell backwards into it because I have a strange voice. That's the easiest way. That's the easiest way to say it, because I think the common mistake most people think is that people let me voice act because I was a hardcore fan. I've been a professional actor since I was 7. My first paying role, I was in The King and I at 7 years old, and I was paid to just be an acrobat in that show. I've done movies and television shows and stuff like that. So. And I never really considered acting a career. It was something that I do for fun. Like I'd work at a law firm, and then once in a blue moon, something like Jesus Christ Superstar would come. I'm like, man. And I'd ask my boss, like, can I take a few days off and do the show? But I never thought of it as a job. A job is somewhere where I went and did projects and got paid for them. And then the funny thing is, Monica Rial and Chris Patton, who I'd done lots of theater with, were working for ADV pretty regularly. And they were looking for someone that sounded like a 9-year-old. The villain in a show called Spriggan was a 9-year-old. Now the funny thing is I got beat out by a 10-year-old. In the last audition, I actually mad dogged him. I was like, across from him, giving him dirty looks and stuff, which I think is so funny. I finally tell myself, like, Greg, you're in your 30s. Stop messing with this child. I didn't get in that show, but it's what got me in the door at ADV, and they kept telling me, they're like, you have the weirdest voice, we want you to keep coming back, and I didn't know what that meant. But my first audition was my voicemail at the law firm. The first person to ever hear my voice heard, hi, you've reached the voice, this is the desk of Greg Ayres in the office of Vincent Nelkin. Sorry I can't come to the phone right now, I'm helping you with your, like, blah, 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 blah. And so the next morning, it was summer associate program. I was like listening to summer associate, like my laptop's not working, and then there's occasionally an older like partner, like I need a dongle for my computer, and then all of a sudden there was this, oh my God, you sound like a little child. And I was like, what is this on my voicemail? And it was the director that I would later work a lot with, Stephen Foster, and that was my first audition, was my voicemail at work. So I tell everybody, even working at the law firm, I fell backwards into that because I was just good with computers, and I worked with another lady who was working there. So I just kind of like, I don't know what I'm going to do when I grow up, but I let the wind take me wherever I'm supposed to be at the moment, and that's what took me to voice acting. So, but yeah, it was a weird transition from law firm to actor. I still bump into attorneys and like secretaries in the airport all the time, because they travel all the time. And they'll see me like this, and it's so funny because when you work for a law firm, you're almost terrified to do certain things because you're judged pretty heavily. It's a very conservative environment. And this one, she was a human resources manager, and she saw me, and I had a mohawk with like leopard spotted sides. And I saw her, and I'm like, oh my God, Linda, what are you doing? And I'm like running up to her, and she's like, and I'm like, Greg Ayres. She's like, oh my, well, I would have, right, that hair would have never flown at the firm. And I'm like, obviously not. But it's so funny. It was really funny because we all got laid off, actually. I can't probably say the name of the client we worked for, but they're a giant oil and gas, horrible entity villain. The name might rhyme with the name Wonderland. So when we all got laid off, everybody else was freaking out. Well, I had been doing so much voiceover. I was ready for my boss to go, all right, it's time to pick which job you want. And I'd already pretty much decided, like, well, I'm gonna do the voice thing. Well, so they're laying everybody off because we're downsizing as a result of bad publicity. And they're like, well, you're gonna get 4 months, pay, and you're gonna get all your vacation time, and there's this severance package, and you'll continue to have your benefits for another 7 months. And I'm like, and I was just sitting there thinking, like, and everybody else was like in shock, and I was thinking, okay, so I get all this extra money, paid for my vacation, and I don't have to quit my job. Awesome. And the last words out of my mouth when I walked out of the room is I told everybody, I was like, well, see you on TV. And that was literally the last thing I said. So it's funny because I kind of already knew this was what I was going to do. So, but yeah, what a weird job. So, yeah, who's got it? Yes. That is a great question. Not many. I always get excited when I get to play an adult. I'm like, really? An adult? My favorite new drink, and it sucks because I know I'm supposed to be boycotting everything Russian right now. Stolichnaya makes a salted caramel vodka.
Ooh.
If you pour it over Coke, it tastes like the old Coke Black. It's so good. But my favorite drink is what my Tumblr is named after, and I keep my Tumblr a secret because I hate Tumblr. I call it the internet hate machine. But my Tumblr is called Requiem for a Dreamsicle, and a Dreamsicle is just orange juice and whipped cream vodka. It's delicious. But, and I've just had a recent sad development. I've taken medicine now that doesn't allow me to drink anything sugar-based. Which, being from Texas, it means I cannot drink tequila any longer, and it hurts even saying that. So the funny thing is I can drink flavored vodkas because it's a potato distilled thing. It's like rums and tequilas, anything that's based on sugar, or a sugar distilled process. No dice. So, those are my two favorites right now, the salted caramel. But now I found this caramel vodka, Pearl caramel vodka, while I was here. If that's just as good over Coke, I can say goodbye to Stolichnaya. So, plus Stoli's expensive. It's like $25 to $30 a bottle. This was $18. So, yay. But I used to be a bartender. Piece of trivia, I used to work at a flaming shot bar. So I know how to do every fire trick in the book with alcohol. And I make a pretty spectacular flaming Dr. Pepper. I actually do the thing where you spit the fire and the whole 9 yards. So, yeah, as long as you have a wooden or marble bar, yes, you can book me for that. I love doing parties like that. I've actually done one recently for a friend. They're like, "Will you do flaming shots?" I was like, "Do you have a bar that can handle me?" Like, yeah, it's a marble countertop. I'm like, deal. So, yeah, I like being able to set the bar on fire. There's some cool tricks you can do where you run alcohol over shot glasses and you light it, and it lights 2 or 3 drinks on fire. It's fun, so, yeah. Plus, when they outlawed those shots, our tips went, because you get tipped a lot for playing with fire, and the minute you're like, here's your Jack and Coke, they're like, it's like $3.75, they're like, yeah, keep the change out of 4, you know, gee, thanks. So, yeah.
How does that happen? Like a lot of your characters that you play are really ladies' man, are really big.
I love it. I recently had a homophobic review because I make no bones about telling people I'm gay. And I'm in Shauna, and I play this this dude that's really after, Marjorie, and they eventually hook up. But they're like, well, I have a very hard time believing Craig Ayres is a ladies' man. I'm like, oh, I have some crazy ex-girlfriends on the internet you can talk to. My ex-girlfriend I dated this girl that is as crazy as they come, and that's the thing I loved about her. And she still, if you look at my Facebook once in a while, if you see somebody calling me Tiger, that's her. Tiger, stop that. I don't know why, I always get cast as a pervert too. I get cast as a wimp, and I've got a hockey temper, which I think is funny. I think just certain voices make a good fit for some things, and I stopped being offended by it, you know, because like when I got to play Yuki in The Wallflower, I never auditioned for that role, and I'm like, I don't know whether to be insulted or happy about that, you know, like, I stopped being offended by it and just like embrace it. I'm like, whatever, it means I still work. So I think it's funny how many characters I have played that steal underwear though. 4 guys that steal panties, and I'm like, my friend's dog steals panties. Anybody ever had a dog that steals panties? I don't know what that is. That's weird. It's a dog thing, I guess. But who's got something else? Yes.
What was your favorite thing about playing Chrono?
Oh man, everything. Probably my favorite thing about playing Chrono is I met the creator of Chrono Crusade the manga while I was working on it. And he and I got to be very good friends. In fact, to this day, if you mention my name, he'll do this little, like, smiley, like, Moriyama, he's the most fantastic guy. I say the F word a lot, so if you think I say fantastic a lot, it's because I'm started to say something else and I'm correcting myself. He is just the coolest guy in the world. And his manager's really cool too, Kato-san, who's like this little bitty guy, but with his J-Rock hair, he's like another foot taller. And when they were in the States, Kato and him, this is kind of a smart way to travel. They didn't bring any clothes with them. They just asked to be brought to a store and buy 5 changes of clothes, which was smart, you know, and then they left them when they were done, which I'm like, man, that is the way to travel. F the airport, like, show up, like, let's buy clothes now. But they went to Hot Topic, and his manager got a ladies' size 1 jeans, and they were baggy in the hiney. So he's like little bitty, he's like super tiny. But they're the coolest guys in the world, they're very nice, and getting to meet him and talk to him and find out all of his plans and all of his hopes and loves and dreams for that show, and to know that they not only had come true, because his originally when he submitted that story, people told him it was awful and it would never sell and he should stop working on it immediately. And the funny thing, this is why I love him to death, he was like, okay, and he went right back to work on it. And finished it, and then started shopping it around to other people. And then finally the publisher was like, okay, we'll do this, we'll put this out, and you'll see we're right, you're wrong, this is awful, no one will ever read this. And then it sold out, and then it became its own manga, and then it became an animated series, and then it got licensed from the US, and then the manga. So like, I love that somebody believed in their story and their product so much that they didn't care what anybody else thought about it, and they just went ahead with it, and it ended up, you know, paying off in like total aces later for him. So it was cool. And I actually have a drawing done by him of Chrono, and I got to watch him do it. It was fascinating because he never, not a single pencil line. Everything was from memory, just straight ink on the paper. And since I live in an area of the country that gets punched out by hurricanes regularly, we generally have 2 things. Like if there's a hurricane and we have to flee, we have to just get the F out of Dodge. We usually say there's, you know, pick 2 things that you'll take with you, and that's number 1, is my drawing of Chrono. So, I don't know, my Minakura autograph may be second, because I just got Kaiser Minakura's autograph, so that may be 2. How odd would it be? Both of them would be Shikichi. That would be the easiest thing to carry if you're running like really light pencil boards. So, yeah. Who's got any questions? I don't even know what time it is. What time does this end? At 8? We've got like 6 minutes. Yeah, my friend Weston. I met Weston, by the way, I met Weston at my first Anime Iowa, so that was a really long time ago. I met Weston and his mom in the Cedar Rapids, it was the Holiday Inn, right? In Cedar Rapids, yeah. The one that had the giant waterfall in the lobby. What's that?
I was just going to say, I noticed you don't really do the State of the Industry panel anymore. So does that mean you think the state of the industry is a lot better than...
Yeah, I actually have a new panel that I do some places called the State of the Anime Industry, a New Perspective. And I actually do. I think the industry is in much better shape than it was, which is really cool because about 5 years ago, had you asked me where the industry was going to be, I would tell you we weren't going to have one in about 4 more years. What has changed everything have been things like iPads and Xbox 360s and mobile phones that have, you know, smart media. So many companies now can sell directly to fans, and we don't have to worry about wanky, stupid people like Best Buy or Walmart. We can sell directly to fans. For a long time, like Best Buy was telling us what we could call shows, the show like UFO Princess Valkyrie had to be changed to UFO Ultra Maiden Valkyrie because they said they weren't interested in carrying anything with the word princess in the title. And I'm like, yeah, because there's never been a successful title in anime with the word princess in it, ever, has there? And they were like, at one point they were saying we couldn't sell anything in a pink box. And I'm like, what the, are you supposed to sell Hello Kitty in if not in a pink box? She belongs in a pink box. So we now don't have to worry about some of those things. Along with, we've kind of beaten a lot of the fan subbers and scumbag downloaders to the punch because there's so many legal, free ways to watch anime that are legal and benefit the industry, like Crunchyroll, Hulu, YouTube. A lot of people have their official YouTube channels, which is funny because it used to be that people would get mad and say, well, I don't want to pay for my anime. And now they'll be like, I hate sitting through the same commercials. I'm like can't win, just can't win. So yeah, I do that panel occasionally, but the other thing is when times get tight, a lot of businesses play dirty, and a lot of businesses in this industry have gotten really nasty with each other, and I don't want to have to be the one to have to answer those questions. Because as you can tell, I'm a person that has no opinions about anything. And I'm going to be the guy that's going to say the wrong thing and not be able to work on a show because they're like, oh, that guy's got a big mouth. So I'm kind of letting the industry regroup and get back on its feet. Hopefully they're going to learn manners soon. But right now, we're doing really good with direct sales markets and things like direct publishing and stuff like that. Some of the coolest things in the world, my friends. How many of y'all are Invader Zim fans? My friend who's the voice of Gur, he and his wife produce manga as well, and she had a really, really well-known manga on Tokyo Pop, but because she wouldn't give away the rights to her character designs, they stopped printing it. Well, when Tokyo Pop went under, guess who got the rights to their own manga back? Talasha. And now they sell it online for next to nothing, and it's selling really well, and they're seeing, like, they'll say even, like, when they go to, like, we were all at this convention in Paducah, Kentucky, and they're like, we know we sell when we go out on the road, because then we'll get home and our Google account will show, like, 7 or 8 sales in Kentucky. So it's cool. It's allowing them to understand their audience better, and it's allowing us to deal with people directly. I think the same thing is happening with music. So many of my friends that are nerdcore performers are on things like Bandcamp and things like that where they can do pay what you will, and they're making a direct connection with their fans, and they're cutting out these like goofball labels that basically just charge a bunch of money so some fat guy can have his own jet. So it's really cool to watch creative industry be able to deal with the general public themselves and not have to go through a lot of commercial outlets. So, and even the Japanese opinion on the internet has changed. That's been one of the slow processes. When we were working on Beck, for instance, I guess I could say this now. I'll probably get in trouble for saying this. I get in trouble for everything. At one point, Gibson Guitars wanted to use Beck Clip as a part of a national ad campaign, and Kodansha would not allow it because it would mean streaming media of Beck, and they didn't want their product on the internet at all. And I'm like, it's Gibson Guitars. What are you thinking? So now I just saw that Kodansha is starting their own online manga thing. So I think slowly people are warming up to the idea of selling their products on the internet and instead of having the internet rob them of their liberties. So yeah, things are going really well. Yeah, in the back.
Last year, you and I actually played a rave together in Chicago.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you remember me? No?
Yeah, Anime Midwest, yeah.
Remember what used to be up here?
Yeah. Feels better having no hair. I do that. I reboot my hair once a year. I love it.
I literally saw you do it on Twitter. Like,
Yeah. Oh yeah, we shaved my head in California last year. Yeah, the lead singer for Kazuha just had a fit watching him shave my head. If you look at the video, you can see Kaza in the background going. But then she said she liked my gray hair, which I was like.
it's funny. That's the same reaction all my friends did at a big. And they all got in line.
Cool, yeah. Oh, it's fun. It's fun to shave your head. Yeah, it feels great. For the first week, you can't stop touching it.
It's true.
Yeah.
Actual, you went all over the Do you
Yeah,
have an actual like favorite genre of music? That
absolutely. Drum and bass. Drum and bass is my favorite genre of music. And I actually will take it a little further back and say jungle, which is the original, or where drum and bass was sprung out of. It's a really fast, for those of y'all that don't know the type of music I'm talking about, really fast genre, usually between 170 and 182 BPM. Real rhythmic enforced, real bass heavy sound. The coolest thing is the drum and bass that I'm into now is real happy drum and bass, real liquid and jump up drum and bass like Danny Bird and Drum Sound Bassline Smith and people like that. I got to meet two drum and bass gods of mine this year, though, thanks to my buddy Whitey Cracker. I got to meet two of the guys from Pendulum this year, which is the Gaz and Rob from Knife Party. I actually got to meet those guys after the Knife Party show in Texas. They're real cool guys. So, which is like, people always like, I'm so sorry if I'm acting like a fanboy. Dude, you didn't see me meeting them. I was like, so yeah, it's really cool. I nerd out on musicians all the time. I track and watch the growth of a lot of musicians. So when I get to meet them, I get really goofy. But yeah, so yeah, favorite genre is drum and bass, definitely. The newer genre that I'm having more fun playing though, and it's funny, is happy hardcore, because there have never been a larger group of DJs that visibly and outwardly hate me on the internet. And so I take great joy in playing their music and having fun doing it. So there's actually a guy trying to kill me right now that's a happy hardcore DJ. I'm like, oh, why are you so mad? I actually want a tattoo that says, if it's called happy hardcore, why are you so mad? That's funny, but yeah.
follow up for that. You probably know my friend Bad Corey though.
Oh, Bad Corey is one. You know what? Perfect example. Okay, so he mentioned another guy.
He lives down the street from me.
Does he? Do you send that guy a big hug? Him and his girlfriend both. You send them both big hugs to me. That's awesome. Like, so I did a show with him in Davenport, Iowa. In fact, Classic Booty High was there. That's Bad Corey. They play Friday night that we all dance to. I didn't know him, and I have a real hard time with the happy hardcore DJs. And so I did my homework. I call all the DJs that I know that have played shows with him, and I'm like, Bad Corey, good guy or bad guy? Good guy or bad guy? And everybody one by one told me, they're like, oh, you're gonna like that guy. He's real cool. He's super about the music, not a jerk. And finally, my friend Andrew Hilton, who's one of my favorite DJs to work with right now, we call him Hilty, he said, he goes, actually, you know what, dude, he's friends with a lot of guys who hate you, but that doesn't matter because that guy's just a cool guy. And he goes, I swear to God, if you do what you normally do, which is stick your hand out and say, hey, I don't know you, he goes, you guys will be friends instantly. And so I took a chance. I did a show with him, and I was like, and it's funny because we were the only two people that showed up for setup on time. All the other DJs were like lollygagging around and getting their drink on, and Corey and I were there ready to set up an hour before. It was just us and the sound guy. And I was like, hey, my name's Greg. I've heard a lot of really great things about you. He's like, really? From who? And I was like, I started naming off people. He's like, oh, well, I'm at an anime convention. I know your name. He's like, but I've never gotten to play music with you. And I was like, well, cool. And we're going to set up. And he goes, so where do we set up? I go, I guess you and I split center since we're the only ones here. So we took center stage, and I had a blast playing with him. In fact, he twisted his ankle at the beginning of my set Saturday night, and I felt horrible because I didn't get to say goodbye to him.
It's okay, he has a tendency to hurt himself every time he plays.
So here's the cool thing, I'm actually going to try to book him for some of the shows that I run now, because I had a great time with him, and I just love working with positive DJs, and he was a real bright spot that weekend. We all had a good time. That was the guy we were dancing to Friday night. We had such a good time dancing.
Do it. He's helped me rock with happy hardcore. That's all. That's the majority of what
And his happy hardcore set is phenomenal. It's fantastic. He played this chainsaw track that I still can close my eyes and hear. So yeah. Well, tell him I said hi. Tell him big heart, sick girl. So okay, now the family reunion is over. Yeah. Oh, Edo Rocket. I really like that show a lot. I like that it's based on a play, for one. Very rarely do we get to do an anime based on a play. And I like that we broke the third wall comedically. We just literally look at the camera and start talking. That said, there were some liberties taken with the script that I had a problem with originally, and there were a few lines that I wouldn't let be in the show because they were poking fun at anime fans. And thanks to me, they're not in the show. Because the people that were writing the show, sometimes they hire comedic writers that aren't necessarily anime fans. And there's this bad stereotype about anime fans and gamers that we all live in our parents' basement. I don't know about you, I don't live in a basement. And if I did,
I don't live with my parents, so.
Yeah, I would live in a basement, especially during the summer where it's nice and cold.
It is nice and cold.
But there was just a joke like that made that was like, put down the remote control and get out of your parents' basement. I was like, no, let's not do that. So, but that being said, I think because they went with comedic writers, I think we had a better result with that show than we would have had we stuck with the real literal translation. And I think the fact that it was a play originally led to that. You know, I think if it's based on a manga, then yeah, you kind of have to stick with the script. But this was a play, and it's all, you know, fairly modern. But I love the idea of my character. The reason he builds fireworks is so that people look in the sky because they don't feel bad when they're looking up in the air when they have their head up. I think it's a really cool idea. That being said, it gets to be a pretty weird show at times. The fact that I had to sing a song as a cat is pretty bizarre. I felt like the 80s baking company lady, crazy ABB. Which there's actually a remix of her meowing now. I tried to get it this weekend, but I couldn't get a copy that was worth playing. So they all sounded like they were ripped off of YouTube. So I've written to the person that created it, so hopefully I'll get a good meow 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 song. But yeah. You just got anything else? I think we're almost out of time. Aren't we? Are we? I don't know, yeah. We 5 minutes ago. I think we can hold this room hostage for another 5 minutes, considering they didn't set the room up for us to have a panel. But who's got a last question? A good last question? Nobody wants to be that last question. They're like, what is it? Yeah! Strong. He's like, yeah, I gotta do the last one.
Do you have any Japanese actors that they knew a role and like, oh, I'm gonna do that when it gets ready to be done?
Yeah, actually there's 2 now. Soichiro Hoshi, the original actor for Son Goku, he and I now share 6 roles behind each other. But the actor who I love the most, and he and I now have 7 roles behind each other, is Akira Ishida. And I love Ishida's voice, and he and I actually have a lot in common outside of acting too. So I was lucky, here's my nerd moment, I met the original voice actress for Nausicaa, from Nausicaa and the Valley of the Winds, Sumi Shimamoto, which I was just like, oh my god. And she's actually a very good friend of his. And so I got to talk to her about him as an actor and the kind of person he is and the kind of things that he's into and whatnot. So they've tried to arrange for he and I to be at several conventions together, and he works nonstop. So it's kind of impossible. Like they were gonna, the year that I met Moriyama, they were gonna try to have him there because it would be the creator of Chrono Crusade and the original voice actor and the American voice actor. And then he started working on Gundam Unicorn, so he couldn't be there. So one of these days, I'm going to be at a show with Ishida and but he and Soichiro are my 2 favorites that I follow behind. There's another guy that I have 3 roles in common with, but those 2 I seem to do the most behind, you know, I kind of come in behind them. It's kind of like Ryo Horikawa, the original voice of Vegeta. Anytime there's a movie with Eddie Murphy in it, he's the Japanese voice of Eddie Murphy, which is so funny. I look at him, he's this old, bald Japanese guy, and I'm like, Eddie Murphy. So, but you know, when they hear Eddie Murphy's voice, they just immediately, that's who's playing. So. Well, thank you guys for being in this weird-ass room. Panel for both Yaoi and non-Yaoi fans alike called What Does Yaoi Have to Do With That? I think that starts at 10. So I'll see you guys there. Thank you guys so much.
This guy's actually pretty cool.